Have you ever thought about how teachers are prepared as well as other education professionals? Have you ever thought about how the quality of educator preparation is sustained either through accreditation or continuous improvement? If so, then you're in the right place. Welcome to EdUp Accelerated Excellence Inspirational Shorts, recorded during the Fall 2024 Annual Cape Con Conference, standing for CAPE, the Council for Accreditation of Educator Preparation. Join us in dialogue with leaders of educator preparation from across the United States. I am Jacob Easley II, PhD, PMP. I am your host, and this is EdUp Accelerated Excellence, a podcast for the advancement of educational effectiveness and equity across traditional and non-traditional learning spaces and experiences. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another fabulous episode of EdUp Accelerated Excellence, a podcast for the advancement of educational effectiveness and equity. And we are on site in Arlington, Virginia at the CAPE Conference, or Cape Con 2024 Fall. And we have a guest to introduce to you. Please tell us your name, your affiliation, and your role at your organization.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sara Platt. I'm an Assistant Dean, Director of Assessment and Accreditation at the University of Mississippi. And I'm also an Assistant Professor of Special Education there as well.
So the University of Mississippi, what is something interesting about the university that the individuals who are not familiar with the university might need to know?
The University of Mississippi is considered the flagship institution in the state of Mississippi, where we have the largest, well, one of the largest, it depends on how you were talking, education prep programs for teachers and ed leaders in the state.
You know, that's so interesting you say the number one, and often institutions in the same state will claim to be number one, and it's all about the metrics. So what metrics would you use to say that the University of Mississippi is number one?
Public institution. We have some private institutions that have large numbers as well, and so they can also claim that title. But when we look at public, that's what we're looking at.
Okay, there we go, of the public state institutions. So we're here at Cape Con 2024 Fall. What has been your takeaway so far? What have you learned that you're going to take home with you?
There's a lot of things at Cape Con to take back. And one is the networking and supports. There's other colleagues across the country that I've now met and kind of been introduced to, and so I'm kind of excited about that. But the other things is the AIMS 2.0 system. If you've been at CAPE before and you use the old system, there's some other interesting pieces, but I'm kind of excited about that piece as well.
So describe the AIMS 2.0 system for those who may not be familiar with that particular feature.
The AIMS 2.0 system has a lot of different features that weren't in the old system, where we can look back at previous reports and refer back easily, and it's not as clunky as some of the old systems where we had to kind of have multiple windows open all at the same time, and now we can just have it all in one system.
So is this the portal, so to speak,
Yes.
in which you submit your annual report and or perhaps your final self-study report for education accreditation?
Yes, that is the same, one and the same.
So our focus here is education effectiveness and equity. How has CAPE shaped effectiveness and or educational equity on your campus?
So when I think about CAPE, I think about our standards. And number one, standard one. When we talk about knowledge, experiences, and diversity of learners, and really preparing our candidates for the students that they're going to teach. So this whole effort with Standard 1 is one where we try to dive deep at the University of Mississippi and think about who are the students that we're serving in the state of Mississippi. And the primary students that we serve, we have the highest rate of poverty in the nation. And so this is one of our huge pieces that we have to talk about in all of our training programs, from ed leadership through teacher education. And so this is a common element that we've really tried to focus on. How do we best prepare our candidates to serve the communities that they're going to be in? And many times our candidates come from different backgrounds than the folks that they're out there to serve. And so this has been one of the the big pieces that we're really trying to focus on, and we had an initiative really to kind of focus on how do we better prepare, especially for kids who are teaching when we're working with students in poverty. But the biggest thing that I want to kind of stop and come back to is we don't make excuses. Like when we talk about kids that are in poverty, we say, this is where these kids are, this is what they need, and we have a growth mindset. And so we challenge and we work with all students and not just give like an excuse to say, hey, this child has, some issues. We know that. Right. It's the empathy and the understanding and then the workaround and giving them the necessary support. So that's one of the big pieces that we want our candidates to walk away from at the University of Mississippi, is to know how to reach and teach the students in their community and connect with them.
Excellent. Can you paint a picture for a scenario, an example of what you've seen, how that has been actualized in curriculum or in the field during coursework, for example?
Yes. Okay, so in Mississippi, at the University of Mississippi, we like to dream big, and sometimes we try things that other people might think are kind of interesting. One of the things we did last year was we had a practitioner in residence. So most of the time, in higher education institutions, we as the experts go out into the field and try to help K-12 schools. Well, we brought in from our local school district a leader who was she was in charge of student services to help us as a teacher prep program to say, this is what our students need. And I'm going to give a shout out to her because I'm going to make her listen to this. Dr. Latanya Robinson, she's the Chief of Student Services at Oxford School District, and she met with a group of core faculty from all of our ed prep programs to talk about these are the issues and challenges, which can be a very scary thing when you're coming in. But one of the things that we developed, and we looked at our core curriculum in terms of what are the classes that all of our candidates take across the board, and how can we better improve them. And so some of the things we looked at were our classroom assessment class, our lesson planning class. How are we looking to meet the needs based on multi-tiered systems of support? And how can we make sure that all students are getting what they need in our lesson plannings and how we're assessing kids and how we're looking at that information. So that's one of our fun parts, okay? So the other thing we did, and I know sometimes people just like, whoa, well, we have a lot of candidates at the University of Mississippi that come from more well-privileged and well-to-do backgrounds. And so they may not have had experiences working in communities where their students are primarily have issues with economic insecurity. So we have, for all our teacher education candidates, we have them go through a simulation where we have a discussion. They're assigned randomly 1 to 26 families, and I'm going to give a shout out to the Missouri Community Action Network because they were our trainers that partnered with us to help us with this. And so they go through a 3-hour process where they're assigned randomly 1 of 26 families. And then they have to experience for a month. They have goals that they have to achieve. And then at the end of the month, they have to come back and see where they're at. And throughout the process, students learn about, hey, TAMP benefits, or they're getting evicted because they haven't paid their bills. And at the end, the most important experience is the debrief. So it's not necessarily just, okay, we tell our students this is a very serious, this is an everyday situation for many of our families we serve. But it's the debrief that we go from. And we use that as kind of like a launch point for additional things. So all of our student teachers are currently being trained on this. We've also started a movement to work with our partner school districts, and we're training them as well. But it's really about the conversations and then the trainings. So we've kind of started to network out and bring other people who are working in this field or experts or districts that are doing really well, and we're bringing them to the table. So be watching us. We're still in the process, but we're passionate at the University of Mississippi. You don't come to work down there unless you really care and you want to make a difference. And that's what we're trying to do every day, is to really kind of connect with our communities and serve the people of Mississippi.
So the University of Mississippi is making strides in really situating educator preparation in the local context or within the local context. So that's quite wonderful. So what words of inspiration would you provide or offer to other EPPs to advance their efforts for educational effectiveness and or equity?
Conversation, dialogue, communicate. Because the biggest thing, we all as educators, we want outcomes for our students. We want our graduates to walk away prepared. How we get there, it can be a variety of things.
Right.
And I think sometimes we all get kind of caught up in, it has to be this way, it has to be that way. It's just when we dialogue together and we come together and talk about what is the bigger picture, if you keep focused on your why, why am I here, why am I doing this, what is the impact of my behavior, that's the biggest thing. When you think about it, it's like your data is what your data is. The question is, what are you going to do about it?
So there you go, folks. Conversations and action. So I think those are very important words of inspiration. And so, Sara Platt, thank you so much for this opportunity to learn with and from you at EdUp Accelerated Excellence. Thank you for engaging with the EdUp Accelerated Excellence community. You can find this episode and others on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Music. And if you like this episode, please don't forget to follow us and share within your network.